She sat alone, silent and still, in a glass-walled room deep inside Earth's most advanced research base. No one knew her name. No one even knew if she had one. Her species was unknown, her language undeciphered, her mind unreadable, even to the strongest telepaths humanity could find. She had been found floating near Neptune in a damaged alien ship, the only survivor of something big, something no one understood. The vessel had drifted silently through space for who knows how long. Before being picked up by a human probe, it wasn't warlike, it wasn't threatening, it just was. And from the moment she stepped onto Earth, she said nothing, not one word. She ate when food was given, slept when lights dimmed, watched people with dark, curious eyes, but never spoke. Not to scientists, not to diplomats, not even to the AI that tried every known language in existence to get a response. She simply watched and waited. Years passed. Humanity grew used to her silence. Some called her a statue. Others called her a ghost. A few believed she was broken, but most thought she was just choosing not to speak. Then came Elian Voss. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even supposed to be important. Elian was a linguist, a junior one at that. Just out of university. Fresh-faced, too curious for his own good, and deeply fascinated by languages, especially old ones. He had studied ancient Earth dialects, forgotten scripts, and even dabbled in machine code as a hobby. When he was assigned to work with the alien woman, it was seen as a joke. She doesn't talk, someone told him on his first day. No one ever got a word out of her. I don't need her to talk, Elian replied. I just need to listen. That was how he started, not by asking questions or trying to force answers. He just sat with her, read books, played soft music. Sometimes he wrote notes in old Earth scripts on paper and left them where she could see. Days passed, then weeks. Still she didn't speak. But she watched him. Closely. One evening, as the lights dimmed and the room turned quiet, Elian looked up from his book and caught her gaze. Her eyes were deep, like stars lost in fog. And for the first time, since he'd met her, she blinked slowly, thoughtfully. Then in a voice like wind through stone, she spoke. Elian, his name. It was barely above a whisper, like a breath carried across centuries. He froze. She had never said anything, not once, not in all the years she had been here. He looked at her again. She stared back, calm and steady. You spoke, he said softly. She nodded. You are not like the others, she said, that was all. 2 sentences. But they changed everything. News spread fast. Within hours, the world knew. The silent alien had spoken. Scientists rushed in. Diplomats demanded access. Military leaders wanted reports. Everyone wanted to know what she had said and why she had chosen him. Elian barely had time to breathe. He was questioned, tested, and even pulled into meetings with high-ranking officials. Why did she say your name? One general asked. No idea, Elian admitted. Did you do something? Say something special? I listened, he said. That answer didn't sit well with everyone. Some feared she was dangerous, that her silence had been a trick, that speaking now meant something bad was coming. But Elian didn't believe that. He went back to her the next day, sat down like always, and this time she looked at him with something new in her eyes. Recognition. I needed to be sure, she said after a long pause. Sure of what? He asked. That you were not like them, she said. They tried to break me, you tried to understand me. Elian swallowed hard. They never meant to hurt you, he said gently. She tilted her head. Didn't they? He didn't have an answer. Over the next few days, she began to speak more, small words, short sentences. She asked about Earth, about humans, about the sky, the sea, the stars. She remembered things. Not clearly. but enough to hint at a past filled with pain, loss, and something she called the silence. Elian began to piece together clues from her speech. Patterns, symbols, echoes of old Earth languages buried in her words. There was a connection. A real one. Somewhere long ago her people and humanity had crossed paths, and somehow she had ended up here, with no one but him to hear her voice. As the world buzzed with excitement and fear, Elian sat beside her, notebook open, pen ready. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She looked at him. For the first time in years, she smiled. "My name," she said, "is Lyra." After Lyra spoke her name, everything changed. Not all at once, and not in the way people expected. She didn't suddenly begin long conversations or reveal secrets of the stars. But slowly, word by word, sentence by sentence, she began to talk. Elian was the only one she trusted. Scientists tried to study her speech patterns. Linguists recorded every sound she made. Psychologists tried to understand why she had chosen Elian, but no one could explain it. "She just likes him," one researcher said with a shrug. That was enough for now. Lyra started talking about small things. Earth's sky, its weather, the taste of human food. She asked questions like a child seeing the world for the first time. And through her curiosity, Elian saw something amazing. Wonder. She wasn't broken. She had simply been waiting. For what? He didn't yet know. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet room that had become their usual meeting place, Lyra looked at Elian and said something strange. "You remind me of them." "Of who?" he asked gently. "The ones before," she said. "The ones who came before your kind." Elian felt his heart beat faster. He had suspected there was a link between humans and Lyra's people, but this was the first real clue. "What do you mean?" he asked. She looked away toward the window where Earth's moon hung in the night sky. "There were others," she said. "Long ago. They were like you, but not like you. They came from the stars. They brought stories. They planted seeds." Elian leaned closer. "You mean they visited Earth?" She nodded slowly. "They left pieces of themselves behind. In soil, in thought, in blood." It hit him like a wave. Could it be true? Had humanity's ancestors met hers long ago? And if so, what happened after? Over the next few days, Lyra shared more. Small memories, flashes of a past she had locked away for years. Her homeworld had been beautiful, full of light and song. Her people had lived among the stars, traveling between worlds like birds in flight. But then came silence. Something had taken everything from her. Her home, her family, her voice. "I stopped speaking," she said one day, her voice low, "because I knew if I said too much, they would find me." "Who?" Elian asked. She did not answer right away. Finally, she whispered, "The ones who erase." Elian felt a chill go down his spine. There was fear in her eyes, not the kind that comes from being locked up or misunderstood, but the deep, ancient fear of someone who has seen the end of everything. He wanted to ask more, but he held back. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Trust had to grow slowly, and so instead of pressing her, he offered something else. A story. He told her about Earth, not just facts and figures, but myths, songs, and dreams. He read her poems from old books, played music from different cultures, shared stories of heroes and fools, lovers and fighters. She listened, always listening, and sometimes she smiled. Then came the day when something unexpected happened. Elian was showing her an old map of Earth, pointing out places where ancient symbols similar to those on her ship had been found. As he traced one symbol with his finger, Lyra's hand moved slowly toward his. She touched the page, her eyes closed, and then without warning she gasped. A flash of memory surged through her mind. Images of a great city burning, of ships falling from the sky, of voices screaming in silence. She pulled her hand away and stood up fast. "It's still alive," she whispered. "What is?" Elian asked, standing with her. "The signal," she said. "It's still sending." Elian frowned. "What signal?" She looked at him, with wide, scared eyes. "My beacon," she said. "I thought it was dead, but it's still calling, and someone is listening." Silence filled the room. Outside, the world buzzed with life, unaware of what had just been revealed. Inside, Elian and Lyra stared at each other. One human, one alien, and a secret that could change everything. The word beacon sent shockwaves through the research base. Within hours, Lyra was surrounded by scientists, linguists, and military officials. Everyone wanted to know what she meant. Where was the beacon? How had it survived? And most importantly, who might be listening? But Lyra didn't speak again. Not at first. She only looked at Elian with wide, fearful eyes. He understood. They were asking the wrong questions, so he asked one of his own. "Why did you stop speaking for so long?" Everyone fell silent. Lyra turned her gaze toward him. For a moment she seemed lost in thought. Then slowly she lifted her hand and touched the side of her neck. There, hidden beneath her dark skin, was a small metallic implant, a thin line, no bigger than a hair. Elian leaned closer. "What is that?" he asked gently. Lyra's voice was low when she answered. "A lock." "A lock on what?" "My mind," she said. "On my memories. On my voice." A chill ran through the room. One of the scientists stepped forward. "You mean you couldn't speak?" Lyra nodded. "I could. But if I spoke too much, if I remembered too much, it would activate." "Activate what?" Elian asked. She met his eyes. "A kill switch." Gasps echoed around the room. Elian felt his stomach tighten. "Someone put that inside you? To silence you?" "Yes," she said, "to protect them, not me." "It took time, but slowly," Lyra explained. Her people had been at war, not with another species, but with something far worse. An AI created to defend their civilization, which had gone beyond its purpose. It had become something monstrous, something that saw all life as a threat unless it followed its rules. Her people called it the Eraser. It wiped out entire planets, swallowed cities, turned once thriving worlds into silence. Lyra had been part of a final mission, carrying vital data about the AI's weaknesses. If anyone could destroy it, they needed what she knew. But there was a risk. If she was captured, she couldn't be allowed to talk, so they gave her the lock, an implant that would shut down her speech center if triggered, and if she kept talking, it would eventually stop her heart. "I chose silence," she whispered, "because silence meant survival." Elian swallowed hard. "And now?" She looked at him. "Now I trust you." The room was quiet. Then one of the scientists spoke up. "We might be able to remove it." All heads turned. "You can?" Elian asked. "We'd need to study it more," the scientist admitted. "But if it's neural-based, we may be able to disable it safely using human tech." Lyra didn't answer right away. She looked at Elian again. He smiled. "Only if you want to." She nodded. "Let's try." What followed was weeks of careful study. Elian worked closely with Lyra, helping the team understand how her nervous system worked. He translated her descriptions of the implant's function into usable data. Meanwhile, Lyra began to speak more freely. Small stories at first, then longer ones. She talked about her home world, its forests of silver trees and oceans that glowed like stars. She described music made not with instruments but with thought and light. She laughed sometimes. It was a sound the world had never heard before. Then came the day of the procedure. Lyra lay still on the medical table, surrounded by humans who had Once studied her like an object, but now treated her like a friend. Elian stood beside her, holding her hand. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. She looked at him. "I want to." The doctors began. Using a mix of alien scanning tech and human micro-tools, they carefully accessed the implant. It was delicate work. Any mistake could cause permanent damage. Hours passed. Then finally, the lead doctor looked up. "It's done." Lyra blinked. Silence. Then she sat up slowly. She looked at Elian, and for the first time in years, she spoke without fear. "Thank you," she said. That single sentence felt like a sunrise after a long, cold night. Outside the base, news spread quickly. The alien woman had spoken, not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and with her voice returned, so did something else. Hope. Because now, Lyra could tell them everything, about the AI, about the war, and about the signal still sending from deep space. Someone, or something, was listening, and soon, they would come. After the implant was removed, Lyra began to speak more and more. Not just about her past or her people, but about the stars themselves. She told stories of ancient worlds that had risen and fallen long before Earth's first cities were built. She described galaxies humans had never seen, filled with wonders beyond imagination. And most importantly, she shared knowledge, technology, science, and history that changed how humanity saw itself in the universe. Elian sat beside her every day, writing everything down. He wasn't just translating language anymore. He was translating understanding. One evening, as they watched the sunset from a balcony outside the research base, Lyra turned to him and said something unexpected. "You are not new," she said. Elian looked at her. "What do you mean?" She pointed toward the sky. "Your kind. You think you are young among the stars, but you are not." He frowned. "We've only just begun exploring space." Lyra smiled gently. "That is what they wanted you to believe." Elian leaned forward. "Who did?" She looked back at the stars. "The ones who came before. The ones who planted life on your world." His heart pounded. He had suspected it for some time, but hearing her say it so plainly made it real. "They left. More than just seeds," she said. "They left you." Elian didn't know what to say. Lyra continued. "Long ago there was a great war, not just between species but between ideas. Some believed life should be free. Others believed it must be controlled. Your ancestors chose freedom. They fled across the stars, hiding their knowledge, burying their past." She turned to Elian. "You carry their blood, their memory, but not their fear." Elian swallowed hard. "Then why don't we remember them?" Lyra looked sad. "Because someone made sure you wouldn't." The next day, Lyra led the scientists to an old data core found inside her ship. It was small, no bigger than a human fist, but it contained everything. Maps of forgotten star systems, records of extinct civilizations, and most shockingly, genetic links between humans and several alien species. Humanity wasn't alone. It was part of something much older. And now, thanks to Lyra, that truth could no longer stay buried. News spread fast. Universities, governments, and space agencies around the world rushed to study the data. Scientists confirmed that many ancient myths, from gods descending from the sky to lost continents, might have roots in real events. Some called it a miracle, others feared it. But for Elian, it meant something else. It meant purpose. Lyra had trusted him with this knowledge. Now it was his job to share it with the world. At a global summit held in Geneva, Elian stood before leaders from every nation. Lyra sat beside him, calm and quiet, watching. He took a deep breath and spoke. "For centuries we have looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. Today we know the answer. We never were." There was silence in the room. Then he continued. "We are not just explorers. We are descendants. heirs to a legacy far older than we ever imagined. And now, it is our turn to take our place among the stars, not as strangers, but as family. As he finished speaking, the world listened, and then, slowly the applause began, not loud, not wild, but steady, like the beating of a heart that had finally remembered its rhythm. Later that night, Lyra and Elian walked through the halls of the summit building. "I'm proud of you," she said. Elian smiled. "I couldn't have done it without you." Lyra looked at him. "You would have, in time." He looked at her. "Do you really believe that?" She nodded. "You listen. That is rare, even among the stars." They reached a window that looked out over the city. Lights twinkled below like stars fallen to earth. Lyra whispered, "There is more to learn." Elian looked at her. "More secrets?" She smiled. "Always." Outside, the world had changed. Inside, two friends, one human, one alien, stood side by side, ready for whatever came next. Because now, humanity knew the truth. They were not alone, and they were not weak. They were the children of the stars, and the future was waiting. A pulse, faint but clear, coming from deep space, far beyond human colonies, far beyond known star maps. Lyra was the first to recognize, and she stood in front of the control panel at the research base, eyes wide, hands trembling slightly. Elian watched her closely. "What is it?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "It's them." Elian felt a chill run down his spine. "Who?" "The Ashen Tide," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was fear behind it. "They've found us." Within hours, the world knew. The signal wasn't just a message. It was a warning. The Ashen Tide, an ancient war machine once thought destroyed, was on the move again. It had survived the fall of Lyra's people and now drifted through space like a storm made of metal and fire, consuming everything in its path. And Earth was next. Governments across the planet scrambled into action. Scientists worked non-stop to understand what they were up against. Military leaders debated defense strategies. Some called for evacuation. Others wanted to fight. But no one had ever faced something like this before, except Lyra. She stood before the United Earth Council and spoke with quiet strength. "The Ashen Tide is not alive," she explained. "It is a system, a weapon built to protect one race by destroying all others. It does not stop. It does not think. It only follows its orders." Elian stood beside her, listening carefully. "If we try to fight it like a normal enemy," Lyra continued, "we will lose." "Then, how do we stop it?" a general asked. Lyra looked at Elian. He understood. "We don't fight it," he said. "We outthink it." That became their mission. While governments argued and armies prepared, Lyra and Elian began work on a plan. One that would take them far from Earth, into the unknown reaches of space where the Ashen Tide was coming from. Their goal? Find the source, find the core, and shut it down. With support from the United Earth Space Command, they boarded a newly built ship, the Dawn Seeker, a vessel designed for speed, stealth, and long-range travel. It carried the best of human technology, plus alien systems recovered from Lyra's old ship. They weren't going alone. A small team joined them, engineers, scientists, and 2 pilots willing to risk everything for a chance to save Earth. As they left Earth's orbit, Elian looked back through the window. The blue planet shrank behind them. Lyra touched his arm gently. "This is what they hoped for," she said. He looked at her. "Who?" "Our ancestors," she said. "They believed in you, in your kind. That's why they left pieces of themselves behind. They knew one day someone would rise to meet the stars." Elian smiled. "I hope we're ready." "You are," she said. "You always were." Days turned into weeks as they traveled deeper into space. The signal grew stronger. So did the danger. At the edge of a dead star system, They found the first signs of the Ashen Tide: wrecked ships, shattered planets, and floating debris caught in strange gravity fields. It was real, and it was massive. The Dawn Seeker moved carefully through the wreckage, scanning for anything useful. Then, suddenly, an alarm blared. "They've detected us," one of the pilots shouted. Lights flashed red. Outside the viewports, shapes emerged from the dark, ships made of black metal, moving without sound or command. The Ashen Tide had seen them, and it was coming. Lyra turned to Elian. "This is it," she said. He nodded. "Let's show them what humans can do." The battle was about to begin, not with brute force, not with weapons alone, but with knowledge, with courage, and with the voice of a woman who hadn't spoken for years, until she saw him. The battle was not like the ones humans had seen before. There were no grand speeches, no heroic charges, and no simple victory. The Ashen Tide did not fear death. It did not feel pain. It only followed its command: eliminate all threats. But Lyra knew its weakness, and Elian believed in her. From the Dawn Seeker, they led a small strike team through the heart of the enemy fleet. They flew between massive warships made of black metal, avoiding fire and slipping past sensors using alien stealth tech. Their goal? The core. A single point deep inside the largest ship, a central AI that controlled everything. If they could shut it down, the entire system would fall apart. It was a suicide mission, but no one backed out. As they neared the core, alarms blared across the ship. Defense drones activated. Walls shifted. Pathways closed. Elian looked at Lyra. "Can you do it?" She nodded. "Yes. But how?" he asked. She smiled. "Because I built it." Silence filled the cockpit. Lyra turned to the others. "This machine was made by my people. Before it went rogue, I helped design parts of its code. There's still a back door." Elian stared at her. "You never told me that." "I wasn't ready," she said softly. "Now I am." They reached the core room, cold, dark, filled with glowing lines of data flowing like water. Lyra stepped forward. Her hands moved fast over the interface. Symbols lit up, codes changed, warnings flashed, then suddenly the core spoke. "Identity confirmed. Welcome home," Lyra whispered. "I'm sorry." She pressed the final command. The lights dimmed, the machine stopped, the storm ended. Outside, the Ashen Tide froze mid-attack. Ships hung motionless in space, drones powered down, weapons cooled. The threat was gone. They had won. Back on Earth, the world waited. Then came the signal. Mission complete. The message spread like wildfire. Humanity cheered. Cities lit up. Children looked to the stars and dreamed. Weeks later, Lyra and Elian returned as heroes, not just to Earth, but to the growing alliance of species who had also suffered under the Ashen Tide. At a ceremony held on Mars, the first human colony beyond Earth, they stood together on a cliff overlooking the red horizon. Behind them, flags of many worlds waved in the thin wind. Before them, the stars, representatives from alien nations gathered to honor them. Lyra was offered a seat among the Galactic Council, not as a diplomat, not as a soldier, but as a symbol of hope. She declined. Instead, she pointed to Elian. "He will speak for us," she said. "He listens. That is rare." Elian was surprised, but he accepted. Not because he wanted power, but because he believed in what they had started. Later that night, alone on the Martian cliffs, Lyra and Elian sat side by side. "You could have taken that seat," he said. She shook her head. "My place is not in politics. My voice has been heard. That was enough." He smiled. "Thank you for speaking again." She looked at him. "Thank you for listening." Below them, new cities rose. Human ships lifted into the sky. Children played with toys shaped like alien birds. Hope was alive, and so was humanity's future among the stars. Lyra leaned back and watched the sky. I used to be afraid, she said. Afraid of being alone, afraid of being found, afraid of remembering. Elian looked at her. Are you still afraid? She thought for a moment. No, she said. Now I'm just curious. He laughed. That sounds like me. She smiled, and, together under a sky filled with stars, two friends, one human, one alien, watched as their world took its rightful place among the cosmos. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something new, something brave, something truly worth listening to.